Hello there, welcome to episode 13 of my tutorial series for Songs of SYX version 66. Today we got finally the military topic at hand. The city is in a pretty good shape. We have a lot of happiness, so much that we have more immigrants at hand than we can possibly accept in the city. The whole industries are going well. We have more than 50 pieces of food more per day production than consumption, and these are all fantastic numbers. That's the point where you can safely go and start building yourself a bit of a military. But I say here in full consciousness, begin to, because we are still just a small town. We're still not an empire yet. So I just built some houses here casually along the road. And what we're going to go towards to now is in the military tab. We need first up a training ground and an archery range as soon as we have teched it. So first up, decide where you want to have it. It'll bind people for a while to be trained, and if you want to have really professional soldiers, they will basically live at the training ground. Those are the two things that you should note. If you only want to have a militia, you won't be binding people there too long. For starters, we're going to build a small scale training ground over here. It's already more on the medium side, but you get my idea. You set up training dummies, and those training dummies give the training hall capacity. So we're going to set up like a couple of these like this. So we have now, no, I want a capacity of 20. That's easier to manage. You don't have to add into this anything else. This is all it needs. It requires furniture, and besides that, nothing more. Although your soldiers will require more to be effective. So let's fast forward while this is being built. Over here you see your army tab. The game creates 4 banners of people to begin with, and these are units that the game will now try to fill. Basically, the moment you enable a training ground, your citizenship will then try to train the people according to what's configured here. There's always a default of 200 soldiers that the game will try to provide for your town. The real problem about these is when you go into the edit screen for one of these, the only thing that's really configured about them is their number. So these guys have not really any training after they have finished what the default settings do for you. That's a very, very important thing to note. You might get the wrong feeling that you have soldiers or something. No, you just have a couple of people who know to use their fists and have organized themselves so they can walk a line together. But that's pretty much it. Technology-wise, when we go towards the military tab, we can also unlock the archery range. We're going to do that, so I can showcase it at this point. But I don't think we are going to work with it at this point either. What do I want to see? So, we put up a couple of training targets, and here you notice that the training targets do require bows, which we don't have currently. I'm setting this up for the sake of demonstration, so here 10 archers can train. We're going to build these things over the course of this episode, or the upcoming episodes, because you see, as with all complex topics in this game, it is a pretty lengthy trip to get everything done that it needs to get done here. But first, let's finish the training ground. In the meantime, we are going to go over to, where is my newest warehouse? I think this one, yeah. This warehouse has some capacity for a crate of leather and a crate of bow. And let's see what we're going to craft in between too. Let's head to the neighbor's place and order ourselves some bows for the sake of the training site, so we can build it. It's really good to have your trade partner around you. Like this, you can always get yourself whatever you need. I strongly recommend to play like this when you're new to the game. No trade partners, or a very really legit no trade partners at all, make the game a lot harder. So here we go. Now, you see that 20 people are being pulled in here. We don't want that. We want, for now, a grand total of 5 people being trained here. So what'll happen now is that the people going into the training hall, it will be always 5 at a time, will try to fulfill their training according to what's configured here. So here it means they'll just go in there and I don't know what they're doing. I really don't know because there's literally no training here configured. But when this process is over, they will be accounted to the army. And then, since skills degrade in this game, whenever their skill falls below the configured threshold, they will get back to the training hall and refresh that. This logic says that you will need, for a good army, a big training hall where a lot of people can constantly be trained at. Personally, I'd say for the beginning of the game, it is perfectly fine when you keep things on the down low. So I want to explain now all these meters and pips. You get to configure what kind of training your people get to have. But here you could technically train them in both ways, but practically it is nonsense, since melee does debuff ranged combat and ranged combat does debuff melee. That's, if you check it out here, your offense skill, that's the one used for melee, goes down by 50% the moment you wield a bow. So the game does not really foresee any way of using both weapons at the same time. You configure how deep the training should go. This is also configuring how much time they need to spend at the gym. So you can safely just set it up for 20%, and there, on the other side here, you now get to configure what kind of gear these people are going to wear. So obviously leather armor protects less than plate armor, but it also weighs less, so your people will be faster in leather, but less protected. When it comes down to the weapon side, you get to decide between blunt warhammers, falcatas, which are really good at piercing and slashing, but their main trademark is the piercing damage, and the flanks, which is a slashing weapon. So you can decide what kind of weaponry you want to take. As you can see here, gear is differently weighed. The leather armor protects only against slashing slashing damage really well, whereas the plate armor is really good against both damage types. And the warhammer, well, the blunt damage is no own damage type. It is represented in the stat of force. Well, that means that against plate armor, well, all weapons are pretty much equally bad, to put it down like that, but your people are slower. If you can make plate armor for your people, I personally think it is worth the slow. Just my personal thought. With the weapons, do it as you can acquire them, and then there's also shields. So, well, shields increase your defense, but if I remember correctly, yes, they can only be used in combination with the falcata. So if you run shields, you don't have the other options available. With the pips here, again, you configure how much gear the squad is going to be used, and 50 people will need 400 blades with a wear out rate as well. So gearing out your army is a darned costly thing. So my personal recommendation for this kind of situation is you are better off to start training a small regiment with higher skills. Go for 10 or 20 people, which you configure to a little bit of a higher training. The training itself gives them already a bit of a skill, but without gear, your soldiers are practically worthless. And since it's really costly to accommodate 50 people with the entire gear, it is therefore, well, personally I do something like this, where I configure them to be a little bit trained, a portion of them, and the majority of them I leave like scrubs. Down here, by the way, you see how many days of training it'll take for them to reach these specifications. 20% of training, 23 days, okay? This binds your people for a while. So you can here now configure how many people you want to have bound at the same time. So here, when it comes down to archery, it's the same logic. You need, again, gear for them, because archers without bows are even more useless than melee people without armor or weapons, because you come with natural fists. It comes down to bows, you are entirely useless without these. So only start training archers when you have the necessary gear for them. I just wanted to showcase how the archery range is built and how horrendously costly bows are. Well, with that all being said, you now know the basics about training your militia. So where do we get all that gear from, you might ask yourself? That's what we're going to spend our time now next with. So first up, we can make leather armor at the tailor's workshop with leather, obviously. We're going to go and unlock this knowledge, and at this point you might also consider upgrading your tailors in general. You can unlock a new level for them, and that makes them a lot more effective. Either way, we are going to get now over here and make that leather happen, because obviously a leather armor requires leather. Duh. So when we check back to our food production, we are really well in the greens. So we can safely go and de-employ our hunters. This will be minus 26 on the meat front. Surely we will feel that, but it won't cause a famine. So the hunters now will be producing leather for us at a whopping amount of 4.4 per day. That's pretty nice. The other thing that we can and will do is we're going to utilize this nice aquaculture thing that we already got, and we're going to build a new husbandry zone here, namely the Auroch pasture. The Auroch offers a production of leather on the side, so we can now bathe while we can smell the lovely odor of the Auroch next door. I think that is going to be the Auroch bathhouse. So I'm going to draw this as far as I can into this direction before we now head over and follow the line here as far as we can. There we go. So I'm nudging this thing as close by to the canal as possible so we get that extra sweet water output. Good. From this point on, I don't think I need to explain anything when it comes down to pasturing. We already know the deal. This will bind, obviously, workers yet again, but it does serve two wonderful things. It does kill two birds with one stone. For one, it replaces the meat production that we've just lost, and the other part is it also cranks up our leather production substantially, so we can use the leather that we overproduce either for more leather armor crafting, which is a very lucrative craft, by the way, or we just start exporting the leather raw, which is less lucrative, but less work intense. So I'll leave it up to you how you want to do that. By the way, every soldier that is successfully fully trained will show up here under your army. Currently, we see them only fielded as recruits, so that'll take a while. I honestly, sadly, don't know how the skill decay on the militia works, so dear comment section, please enlighten us if you know more about this, because in all honesty, the combat system of SYX is the one thing that I didn't touch too much yet. I am constantly living with the verdict I'm going to play with it once the game is finished, because I didn't like the earlier versions of it, but now the game is very close to completion, and I've decided that it's finally time to learn fully. So, clearing out the pasture comes also with a nice side effect that we are pretty much cleaving out all the wood that we require to build this freaking thing. So, what's not to like about it? The workload. The workload is not to like about it. So, because of that, we are going to assign more people. And here you see again the dip in happiness, because lawlessness is happening. But this won't be happening too long anymore, because we are very close to be crafting our own leather armor. When you are starting to craft your own leather armor, you are also starting to be able to spam guard posts left and right, because that leather armor is seriously one hell of an investment early on. Buying leather armor is a nightmare, as is buying any military type of gear. It's almost as if your neighbors don't want you to militarize yourself. I wonder why. But that's another day's topic, so we are going to witness the construction of the pasture here. And with version 66, I want to point out that cutting trees and removing stones feels like it's taking longer than ever. So just as something that I noticed over time. Well, but luckily we have that super fast mode for ourselves, so we can just skip ahead with time. We have a lot of livestock at our hand, and our leather stockpiles are more than full already. So let's change something about this. This is pretty ridiculous and bad. So we are going to set up the leather crates on this side of the world, and since there is no real pull request happening on this thing, we are going to change the capacities here. With one, so we're increasing the capacities of these. We're also going to increase our imports on the opiates, but, well, I don't mind. Jokes aside, it's just a small post of more money being spent somewhere, so we totally want that auto-employ on the Orok pasture, so the AI will slowly nudge down the total amount of workers there. And yeah, this place is going to be producing quite good because of its access to fresh water. Sadly, it's not the full bonus to freshwater access, but whatever. Could draw a little bit of a canal this way along if it would be bothering you in your own city. I don't mind. Good. Next step, we build that tailor to tailor ourselves some leather armor. So the leather armor is the cheapest source of military gear, and I personally love to make mini workshops for military gear, as large workshops for this topic are really hard to fully utilize because the raw materials tend to be either rare or costly or both. So for this scenario, I mean, we are on a pretty good leather income at this point, but well, it could be better. And I personally feel like having a high income of leather is always a pretty difficult task, or at least on my games it always has been. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, I don't know. Either way, we have now a net positive of 22 pieces of leather a day. Whoa, what did I do? I didn't think I'd be building walls here. Whoopsie! So that's what the remove job is for. So you tell them to stop whatever weirdness they were doing. And the most important thing is that we also happened to... I don't know if we don't have... Oh god. So, this is not going down as I wanted it to. Yeah, I wanted to build a road here. I'm certain you guys have noticed that I used the wrong command way before I did. Either way, so I must have picked up the wrong thing while I was control left clicking. So, now we're building. Okay. I really hope that the door is still intact. Yes, it is. Good. Alright, as you can see here, leather is piling up nicely, and we don't see too much of a difference in our food income. That is exactly how I was hoping it would go down. The only problem that slowly emerges here is that we are adding in more and more industry and less services. So if we would be just keeping upgrading or industrial capacity here, at some point we would be stopping to have further people there. Oh no, we had an accident, a terrible accident at the bakery. 2 people left dead. That's, by the way, why you need a good graveyard system, you know. Some people die of old age at the age of 29. Some have to die at the bakery. Oh well. So we have a really high production of leather. So we can easily just pick up all the people trying to enter our city and amp up the housing yet again. Oh dear, I messed things up. Oh well. Because homelessness is the easiest avoidable spreader of unhappiness. Okay, but the best part about it is we now are successfully processing the entire leather, and we are now successfully producing a armor that we can export, tremendously costly. I mean, to give you an idea, let's offer one piece of leather armor. These go for 200 and something each. That means we can easily pay our bills just with that. And the best part about it is an endless resource, you know? We're not only producing leather, we're also producing meat along the side. So it's a very, very lucrative industry, but at the same time it is also, as all the industries, quite work intense. The real cool thing about weapon crafting on this level is that it is really cheap in terms of complexity of the materials put in. You know, there's really not much you need to worry about when you're utilizing leather. So let's move on over to the rest of this. So in the carpentry, we can unlock making makeshift weapons. We're going to do that. This unlocks at the Carpenter's Workshop the production of warhammers. We also unlock the bowyer because I at least want to go over it. I won't be building one because the bowyer also consumes leather, if I remember correctly. No. Yes, leather and wood. So it will crank out bows. Bows are, though, in my humble opinion, best spent early. I'm talking about early on. We're still in the brink between early and mid game. On Tilapi. Anybody else, I think it's a pretty solid choice to go warhammers early on. Or if you have the metal on the side, we have a pretty decent metal income. We might also be unlocking at this point the smithy, and then you can go for weaponsmithing. Mind you that smithing falcatas is not really a technologically advanced thing at all. You will only need 450 tech points, metal, and coal for that. So let's move on over to our carpenter. At the Carpenter's Workshop, we also can make shields, here again at the expense of leather. You might or might not have noticed that leather is a constant nuisance in our equations, and it pops up everywhere. So eventually, you might want to have a sort of or it's at least what I do. Okay, I just want to introduce to you my methods. So eventually, what I typically have is a small district of war factories, something like this, depending on the stage of the game. This is larger or smaller. And these workshops will are only made to craft gear, you see. We don't want to do anything else here. So this is going to be the carpentry for warhammers. And I'm going to copy that workshop immediately. Let's see, left shift copy. You see, can copy these before they are even built. And we are going to put this down there. And this will be the workshop for warhammers or shields, whatever I said before. Can't remember, but you get the idea. So we have the production of these weapons available at all points. And the best part now is that we can finally go over to our city and spread lawfulness where it hasn't been spread yet. No, most importantly, I want to upgrade my guard post properly. Yes, this does cost a lot of leather armor, but at the same time, the large guard post is much more material efficient than the others. I'm not that happy about that, but it does make sense insofar as concentrated allocation of law is always deterring criminality quite decent. You usually don't go for criminal actions where you know that the police is living at. And, well, the larger the police department, the more deterrence. I think that there is a little bit of a logical connection there. Whoa, so we had a terrible accident at the Entelodon pasture, so you notice that accidents rack up. There is, nowadays, a technology against that. So there's work safety. When you mouse over your workshops, where was it? I recently saw that. Here. There is a accident rate meter now. So you notice that some workshops have not an accident rate at all, like the labs and all, whereas some of them, like the brewery, have a much higher accident rate. So when we start investing technology points into work safety, that's really not a large amount of tech that you need to invest, but I can strongly recommend it. You notice that we just dropped the accident rate from 5 to 3.13%. So accidents will always happen, no matter how much precautions you will take. Now let's recruit all these. But it is just quite good to invest some tech points. And we are now officially Dakori. That is when you reach 500 people. Yeah, what do you want, guys? Yep, we are going to pay this up. That's when you reach 500 people, and that's when you are allowed to start influencing the world around you. This is a very exciting point in the game. We are going to load up this place now with scientists. What I'm going to do next is, well, let's make only 10 out of these, is I'm going to go and, well, hopefully we'll have enough. Let's see, 6,200, 7,000, sorry, and 7,900, 8,000. All right, that's a roughly 2,000 disparage. We're now sciencing our way to the improved laboratory. This technology will help us out a lot in upgrading our capacities, and at this point of the game, we've reached the point where we can just safely produce metal. And as you see there, I would even have enough metal on the stockpile to get the job done. And look at that, our first 5 soldiers are ready after 23 days of training. And, well, that's the basics. We are now setting up those workshops and whatnot, and we still have a very, very long time ahead of us. At this point of the game, you can now decide for yourself either to make a wood and leather-based weaponry, which you can spam excessively, or you save your money up for the metal weaponry. Either way you do it, you need to take into account that your local militia will need regular restocking of these weapons and armors that you procure to them. So whatever you assign, keep in mind that is that is not a single time investment. It is something that you constantly have to replenish, and it'll bite you back if you don't respect these things. So let's check back with our consumption rate. Oh, we have here a bit of a necessity to upgrade, my friends. Well, why is that happening like this? Anyways, my friends, I'm going to end today's episode here. We have made a really, really good piece of progress. We now have all the military force that we require to fully gear out, or no, we have the economy to gear out our military force. It's more how I want to put it. And we also have the knowledge now to gear out the local militia. This is not to be mistaken with the army that's doing stuff on the world map. It's a different pair of shoes. The stuff that we're training in the training hall and whatnot is directly used to defend your home turf. That is very important to note. You can use these later to send them elsewhere to conquer and such, but another day's topic. Thanks for watching, you all. Drop me your comments down below. Correct me where I stand wrong. Answer my questions if you can. And of course, thanks for watching again. Description box down below has my Discord, my Twitch, and a lot of other links that you might want to check out. Among these, my playlist link for the series, a new playlist for lots of tutorials that I'm making, and last but not least, if you are willing to support Icon Gaming financially, that would make me very, very happy. There's a couple of links down there, and, well, big thanks goes out to all of you who have been supporting Icon Gaming, or you are. I really deeply appreciate. And last but not least, a big thanks to everybody watching this video up until the very end. You can notice me stumbling over my own tongue, and you can get my appreciation at the same time. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.